Hey everybody, Mike Toy, Bonsai Boise. This is another Ficus Benjamina that I've been working on in a different way. Been doing a kind of a windswept look. You can kind of tell there. So I started this a few years ago. I don't have a ton of earlier footage, but I do have some that we can go back in time and kind of see how it's come along. These present unique challenges, which I'll talk about. So going back about almost a year exactly, this is last August 2023. You can see some of the crazy wiring that I've got going there. And I've tried different wiring approaches. I've tried wiring the branches directly. In this clip here, here's a little look at where I did the initial trunk chop right there. But as for wiring, you can see here I just did guy wires. It's kind of hard to do guy wires because there's not anything to really anchor them to. So I had to do some funky stuff with, wiring around the bottom of the pod and everything. But it kind of works. It's not perfect, but it was coming along. I had some issues right there where about 3 or 4 branches coming out of one little point, which I end up making corrections to later. I think this will look really cool as it gets older and bigger. Fast forward now to March of 2024. It's been in the grow tent for maybe 5 or 6 months at this point, and it's kind of grown out and wild. And you can sort of start to tell where some of the challenges are with these. This really was my first attempt at any kind of windswept look for any tree. But you can see branches don't want to cooperate. They want to grow backwards and straight up and everything else. So it takes a lot more tinkering to get them to go the way you want them to go. And you end up making a lot of sacrificial cuts, branches that 5, 6, 7, 8 nodes long going the wrong way. You just got to get rid of them. And also it gets cluttered up in there much quicker and easier. Not sure what I'm pointing to there in that clip, but I'm sure it was something very important. So I trimmed it up. You can see a little bit better structure now. And I left the wires on at this point. Here it is as of about a month ago. It had grown out quite a bit. And at this point, I'm going to trim it up. And I decided to make a few big cuts just to take care of some issues. And I'm also going to take the wires off. I just want to see how it does for a little while without any wires. I don't think it's going to go straight back to normal again. But I just want to see. So there it is. You can see I thinned it out quite a bit at this point. I got rid of, on the upper part there, I got rid of some of the branches that were going off to what would be the left. There's one branch on the lower one that's kind of going straight up that I do want some branches back that far on that branch, but I don't know if that one's going to make the cut because it just doesn't want to go the right way. We'll give it a second chance. And sorry about the video, it keeps turning kind of cloudy right there for some reason. I don't know why. You can see some of the big cuts that I made. Over time, I think I'm going to create a little more separation between the top part and the bottom part. Have the top part go off to the left side a little more and the bottom part go off to the right side a little more. Look at all that foliage and all those wires. Yeah, sorry again, I don't know why the video is doing that. It's got these little split seconds where it gets cloudy. I've just never done that before. please bear with me. And now here it is as of today. Technically yesterday, but you get the idea. So it grew back really quick and really fast and full. So I just did that hard pruning a month ago. And the wires have been off now for this past month. The soil's looking kind of gross, so I'm also going to repot it today. That wire is the one that I was anchoring all of the guy wires to before. I'm not going to rewire it up today, just because since I'm repotting it, it's not going to be super stable in the pot, so I'll give it a little time just to kind of fill in with some roots and stabilize a little bit more. But then once it gets stable, I'm going to wire it up and start working on that separation between the top half and the bottom half. I think what I'm trying to demonstrate there with my hands is trying to get it to flow in that direction, as if the wind is blowing it in that direction. I won't get too in depth in the trimming, just because I think you probably can get the idea of what I'm doing. As I'm going through, I'm looking for leaves and branches that are going the opposite direction. I'm getting rid of those, taking it back to a leaf that is flowing in the direction that I want it to go. And presumably the branch will grow in that direction after that. Also getting rid of older leaves that are, these Ficus Benjamina tend to sprout two branches from a leaf point. So then what you have is one leaf right in the elbow of two branches, and they don't really serve much purpose. So I look for those and get rid of those. Now that I got the bottom half mostly done, I'm going to temporarily just kind of pull it down and hold it out of my way, basically, while I work on the top part. I wish I had some older footage to share on this one. I vaguely remember that it started as, I guess I don't know what I would call it, kind of a leaning style. And then I did a big trunk chop there where you can see the scar, and decided to go with this. So yeah, you can kind of see what I'm hopefully getting at there. I just want to create some separation between the branches as well as the top part and the bottom part. So for now, let's get it out of this pot and get all that old soil out of there and repot it into new soil. It was pretty tight in there, not all the way, but I expected it to be a little bit more root bound than it ended up being. But I also expected that the roots would be kind of wild, and because it's a big pot, it's a deep pot for the size of the trunk, so there's more opportunities for roots to go rogue and grow up, down, left, right, in whatever direction that they want. I think I pretty much always do these the same way. I start by poking at it with a chopstick, and then I just end up doing it with my hands. Dirtier, but when you operate by feel that way, I think it's better. I'm going in super fast motion here because it's kind of a long drudgery and it's not that interesting. So I just speed through the boring parts. But you can see that the roots are actually in pretty good shape. I don't really recall if I even did much root work to it initially. I think when I first potted it up a couple of years ago, it really just wasn't that interesting looking yet. It's only gotten more interesting over the past year. But yeah, the root spread is really good, full. Really not a whole lot of correcting that I needed to do. So that was a nice little pleasant surprise. Here all I'm doing is I'm just looking for roots that are not going the direction that I want them to go, or roots that are super long like that one. Trying not to screw it all up by dropping it on the ground. Yikes. So roots that are crisscrossing too much, or growing straight up, or any roots that are disproportionately bigger than other roots. Sometimes I'll take those back kind of hard just to keep everything in proportion. You don't want one side to go super crazy and the other side nothing. And then I just sort of take them all back a little shorter. Roots tend to multiply at cut points just like branches do. My soil mix here is mostly perlite, pumice, some pine bark, some volcanic rock, and a little bit of academia. I gotta tell you though, I think I'm gonna take it easy on the academia. I'm gonna mostly leave it out. I'm not really seeing any benefits from it, at least in not the tropical trees, which would make sense because academia is a little more on the acidic side. I'm no expert at it, but that's what I'm seeing. Kind of a side note, I'm noticing that in some other trees too. My silver maples don't seem to do as well with it, which is weird because they can grow in anything. So here I'm just filling it in with soil. The roots are not so thick that it's hard to work the soil into the roots. Relatively easy. But I'll show you something else that I do. I do go at it with a chopstick for a while on my fingers and just kind of work it in, make sure there's no gaps or air pockets or anything like that. I want to make sure it's nice and consistently full everywhere. This is another part that's long and boring, so I kind of speed through it. But once I get it pretty well done, I first lightly water it just to, I don't want to spray soil everywhere. But then once it's good and wet, I kind of do this little pulsating spray, which I think kind of works the soil into the roots even more. I'll show you here. Kind of like that right there. Just nice and controlled, slow. Again, you don't want to spray soil everywhere, but it just sort of fills in the gaps even further, more than you could do with the chopstick. With the chopstick, you eventually get to this point where there's nothing more you can accomplish. You're just kind of moving soil around. But I think that doing it with the hose like that kind of just finishes it off even better. Then I just keep watering it for a while until it starts to run clear. And I'm going to put some rocks in here to stabilize it for a while, because I did not wire it into the pot. This particular pot is made of some type of brick, and I tried to drill an extra hole in there for wires and I couldn't, even with a mason bit. So I'll just use rocks to kind of hold it down. And there it is for now. It looks kind of slanted to me now. So like that top branch there will probably end up having to go. I imagine here in about a month it will have stabilized enough so that I can wire it again. And once I can wire it again, that'll get it looking a little more even. In the meantime, I'll just have to grin and bear it. My OCD doesn't like how uneven it is, but it's how it's going to be temporarily. But that's it on my windswept Ficus Benjamina Bonsai. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Leave me any comments you've got if you've ever done one of these. I'd love to hear it. And have a good rest of your day.